The latest headline news story with Elon Musk supposedly saving these two astronauts, Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams, as you see here. This mission, back in June 2024, was only supposed to be for 8 days, but due to the supposed Starliner capsule developing a helium leak, they couldn't return back and bring back the astronauts. And I should mention as well, as you see this goofball, Don Pettit, who I call the head of mockery when it comes to NASA, aboard as well. And you see them wearing the Santa Claus hats. And this is flat out mockery. If you believe in space travel, you might as well still be believing in Santa Claus. Now let's get to this mainstream media footage covering this nonsense. Then I'll continue to break it all down.
Back to NASA astronauts who have been at the International Space Station since June are one step closer to returning home. Now, they were supposed to spend about a week on board the ISS, but after NASA determined it was unsafe to bring them home on the Boeing Starliner, their mission was extended to 9 months. NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams should be heading home soon. After a scrubbed mission earlier this week, NASA's SpaceX Crew 10 mission successfully lifted off from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida yesterday.
I'm happy to report that Falcon 9 safely delivered the crew and Dragon to their intended orbit.
The spacecraft, powered by a Falcon 9 rocket, will dock with the International Space Station late today.
We're going to take it one step at a time and watch the vehicle carefully and watch the crew carefully on the way to rendezvous and docking.
That crew, which includes 2 NASA astronauts, a Japanese astronaut, and a Russian cosmonaut, will stay on the station for roughly 6 months, relieving the current 4-person crew, which includes Williams and Wilmore.
Now let's put some fire in this rocket.
The pair arrived in space on an 8-day test flight last June on the Boeing Starliner, that mission stretching to several months after NASA and Boeing brought the Starliner back to Earth without the two due to technical issues. NASA insists Williams and Wilmore were never stuck or stranded.
I should stop and mention Williams and Wilmore, that's WW for 33 with their last name initials.
Williams has now broken the record for the most spacewalking time by a woman.
I think a lot of people know about our situation, but I also am excited that people are paying attention and understanding a little bit more about...
And notice the man hanging upside down next to Don Pettit. And this is as above, so below. There's a lot of occult hidden in plain sight, obviously, with NASA being an occultic organization. Let's continue on.
Science and space.
We've been paying attention, and NASA says the crew could be home as soon as Wednesday. Docking at the ISS is scheduled tonight at 11:30. They will open the hatch and enter the station at 1:05 tomorrow morning.
And let's continue on with the latest on the nonsense aboard the ISS, which is somewhere here on Earth on this flat plane of existence. Let's continue.
Onishi, the first Crew 10 astronaut through the hatch.
A journey more than 28 hours for this moment, months in the making, on the International Space Station.
You can hardly even put it into words. The ride up on the Falcon 9, orbiting the Earth for the last couple of days, it's been absolutely incredible.
The arrival of SpaceX's Falcon 9 marks the start of a new mission for 4 astronauts on the ISS, while providing a path home for 2 NASA astronauts who have been on a very extended stay.
It was a wonderful day. Great to see our friends arrive.
Let's get going.
Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore left Earth in June of 2024. Their mission on the space station only meant to last 8 days, but their spacecraft was deemed unsafe, leading to a difficult decision.
We found some things that we just could not get comfortable with, putting us back in the Starliner when we had other options.
9 months later, that other option now clear, setting the stage for their return. But their time was well spent. Conducting scientific research and routine maintenance, now they are passing on that knowledge to the new crew, 4 astronauts from 3 countries who are expected to spend 6 months on the ISS.
We are so excited to now be officially part of the Expedition 72.
As a rookie, that was one of the coolest things I've ever done, and I can't wait to get to work up here.
So I'm going to lead you down through the PMA.
Providing there are no setbacks, Williams and Wilmore are expected to start their journey back to Earth on Wednesday, touching down in Florida, and setting up reunions that have been months in the making.
And a huge aspect of the so-called International Space Station is society in general. They cannot fathom how all these countries working together as one can pull off this grand deception And that's why it's so hard for many to go where the truth is. And that gets back to Don Pettit, as you see here. As I stated earlier in this presentation, the head of mockery when it comes to NASA. Let's take a listen to what Don Pettit says here. I played this clip many years ago. Let's take a listen.
And astronauts are really, really good at making pictures in space that look like you've never left the planet. In fact, it's almost hard-pressed to tell whether you're in space or not in this picture. You know, we've got some fancy backdrops, I guess.
And that gets into, which I stated earlier, joining up late in the mission with these two Russian cosmonauts, as you see here. But let's take a look here at the date itself. September 11th, and they love that date. We'll get into that a little bit more. But first off, I find it very interesting. Everything that's happening on the world stage with Russia, Ukraine, and obviously the U.S. supplying Ukraine with munitions against Russia. But take a look here. They're all together again on September 11th, joining forces on this so-called mission. And here you see the two flags side by side, the U.S. and Russia, two Russian cosmonauts in this so-called journey into space to the ISS. But again, the date itself here, when they supposedly went to the ISS, as I mentioned, September 11th. Take a look here, as I mentioned in my previous video, when it comes to Revelation 9:11 in the Bible. This is the only verse in the Bible where the Antichrist is named, and that a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon, and that gets back to NASA and their first so-called mission back in 1969, and the 30th year anniversary. I find it very interesting. Take a look here. Obviously, the connection with Apollyon and Apollo, one and the same. They're praising the Antichrist, as mentioned again in Revelation 9:11. The two 11s, like two massive buildings we know of on this date. So make no mistake about it, the connection is obvious with the 30th year anniversary. I should mention as well the year. They're all about the dates, sign symbols, and numbers, but the date itself with the 69, of course, when it comes to the Masonic Lodge, as you see on the wall, it's like the yin, the yang, with the 6 and the 9, but obviously with the year 1999, take a look here in Washington, D.C., on New Year's Day, 1999. The reflection on the water itself, the 666 reflection. And I'll definitely get into the aspect of how they like to turn things upside down, where society sees things right side up, but they see things upside down. And that gets into this clip with Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams side by side. Again, the WW with Williams and Wilmore. Just take a look here. And you see the straining of the faces, specifically Wilmore. Take a look, and you see like a vein right there in his forehead. His face is red, and there's a reason for that. I've covered this before in previous videos regarding these two, Scott Kelly and Mikhail Kornienko, obviously wearing the gold and blue. Pointed this out before in both numerologies. When it comes to Pythagorean and Chaldean, it is 33. So that's one aspect I want to point out. But take a look here. The same with Wilmore. And you see that vein in the red face. And that's because he's hanging upside down. That's another occultic aspect I'm going to get into right now. Take a look here. As you see, again, Scott Kelly, Mikhail Kornienko, the same thing. Look at Kornienko's face. The straining of the faces. Their faces look swollen, obviously, compared to here. And that's because they're hanging upside down on harnesses. Clear as day. The way their arms are. Another aspect here. A little bit of a close-up. Just take a look. Basically, again, upside down. And just like I shown with Wilmore, with the straining of the face, you're going to see the same thing here. Once again with Scott Kelly. Take a look at that vein going up his head here. And that weird looking face, because again, they're hanging upside down. And regarding the vein itself with Scott Kelly, take a look here. Yes, hanging upside down for extended periods can cause blood to pool in the head, potentially leading to increased pressure in blood vessels and veins. So that's what you have here, and obviously hanging upside down. A little bit of an Easter egg here in the background as well. Take a look, closer look here. It says International Atlas while they're supposedly upside down when this is obviously right side up. And again, I mentioned the occultic side and the entire aspect of doing things upside down as they do. Let's take a look here from Isaiah 29:16. Surely your turning of things upside down shall be esteemed as the potter's clay, for shall the work say of him that made it. When it comes to the Bible with this verse, Psalm 146:9 says here, the Lord preserves the strangers, he relieves the fatherless and the widow, but the way of the wicked he turns upside down. So again, a very important aspect that people are missing. They're pointing out the obvious when it comes to a lot of the fakery when it comes to NASA, but they're missing the occultic side that I've covered in many of my video presentations. You got to go look deeper. You got to look further, and you'll see what's taking place. And that definitely gets into other aspects of society, of the star upside down, and also the hangman being upside down. In every aspect of society, you can keep going on and on looking. You'll see a lot of the aspect of turning things upside down, just like Diana Ross with this song. Definitely a control puppet. The song was written for her with the whole aspect of upside down. Lionel Richie with this one music video from the 80s, Dancing on the Ceiling. And clearly, this whole entire aspect is not pulled out of thin air. There's an occultic side to it where he's upside down dancing on the ceiling. Make no mistake about it, this is not pulled out of thin air. For those that think it's a stretch with this aspect of doing things upside down in the occultic side, take a look here at Lionel Richie. So I pointed out before, all holding up their hands for Mandela. What do you see? Perfectly centered with the 666 in our hand. And this all has to do with the mark of the beast. Lionel Richie, make no mistake about it, a big-time sellout. He wouldn't be in the music industry for decades and decades unless he sold his soul a long time ago. But this whole presentation, this whole understanding of looking deeper, thinking deeper, and seeing the truth in plain sight when it comes to these deceptions and all the puppets involved, when it comes to the deception, when it comes to so-called deep space with these individuals. As you see, it's not just obviously the U.S. You obviously have Russia involved as well. Make no mistake about it. When it comes to grand deception, they're all working together as one. And all leads to the Antichrist, as it states here in Revelation 9:11.
John chapter 9, verse 25. Whereas once I was blind, now I can see. Now I can see.